Welcome everyone to the top 10 rocket jump world records of 2023. We're here to take a look at the fastest and most impressive runs achieved in this past year. There's been tons of crazy runs this year, so I've tried to select the 10 most impressive ones for your viewing pleasure. And just for the record, this list is entirely my own opinion and isn't based on anything objective whatsoever. You know, it's just for fun. Coming in at number 10 is Lily on Jump Inimica. This map is relatively new, releasing in mid-2023, and competition on this map ever since it released has been fierce. The world record has changed hands on this map dozens of times since the map was released, with a ton of incredibly talented players fighting for the top spot. And Lily's incredibly clean run has successfully ended all competition on the map for the time being. She hits the majority of the connector strats to maintain her speed between jumps, and slams the jumps themselves with tons of speed, managing to beat out DRK's previous record of just 1 second. 1 second isn't a ton of time to save, but on a map as competitive as this one, it's a pretty impressive feat. The only major mistake in the entire run is this slow connector strat before jump 5, where she gets a strange angle off her sync at the end of jump 4. But other than that, this run contains no major mistakes whatsoever. This run isn't completely unbeatable, but it would take a completely flawless run that is perfectly optimized to beat this run by just a couple seconds. So unless someone comes up with new faster strats, it's likely that this record will be here to stay for the time being. Coming in at number 9, we have DenDro on Jump Echo. This run is practically flawless, with only tiny optimizations left to be made on the run. DenDro hits every single strat for every single jump in the entire run, something that no previous world record holder has ever managed to do. Previous world record fails a few strats, like this strat to hit the speed shot faster on jump 5, or the strat to completely skip jump 10. But DenDro's world record doesn't miss a single strat, and not only does he hit the strats, but he hits them faster. So even if the previous world record did hit every strat, DenDro would still be significantly faster, which makes for a run that is extremely hard to improve upon. Outside of finding completely new strats, there's only tiny optimizations left to be made to make this run faster. This run is as close to as fast as this map can possibly be, and only time will tell how low this time can go. Coming in at number 8, we have Tupikas on Jump Destination V2. I find this run to be particularly interesting because it uses completely new strats that no previous world record has ever used. There's these little blocks lying around the map in various places between jumps, just as scenery decoration to make the map look more interesting. But Tupikas figured out that he can use some of these to his advantage. He can ramp slide off of the cubes in a couple of places to maintain a ton of his speed through the connector. Previous world records opt to sink in places like these instead, which is much slower. But these strats also let him carry that speed into the next jump, which creates an entirely new strat for completing the 11th jump on the map. Previous world record has to come to a complete stop to do this jump the intended way. But Tupikas is able to slide off this cube, maintain all of his speed, and then fly through the jump at 1,000,000 miles an hour, which is how this run is able to save an entire 15.5 seconds on the previous world record. This run shows incredible creativity, looking at the map and finding brand new strats that seemingly went unnoticed by every other top player until now, but it comes in at number 8 for sheer creativity alone. Coming in at number 7 is Diller on Jump Hanami. Hanami is an infamously difficult map, one of the hardest maps to complete in the game. It's a pretty old map by now, but when it released back in 2016, it was considered the hardest map ever made. So Diller's run, despite being far from flawless, is incredibly impressive. It's the first sub 7-minute run of the map ever achieved, and it's sub 7 minutes by almost 30 seconds. It first tries a lot of the hardest jumps in the map and doesn't spend too much time stuck on any one jump. There's theoretically a ton of improvement to be done on the map, but on such a difficult map, actually improving on it in practice is incredibly difficult. So difficult that nobody in the last 8 years has ever gotten a no-fail of Jump Hanami, which is why the gap between top 10 times is so huge. The 10th fastest time on the map is 18 minutes long. It's a map infamous for its difficulty, so if I had to make a bet, I'd guess that Diller's run will likely stand for a very long time. Coming in at number 6 is Bunny on Jump Jomp. There's a bit of a funny story to be told with this run. You see, this map is also known for being difficult. Not nearly as difficult as Hanami, but super difficult nonetheless. And the first ever no-fail of this map was achieved by a player named Rubidus in the summer of 2023, with a time of 3 minutes and 6 seconds. It's a super impressive run. The first no-fail of a map that's been around for years is always impressive. But then Bunny came along, and she took this world record, impressive in its own right, and smashed it by almost 30 seconds. Bunny's run is not just a no-fail, but it also introduces a ton of strats too. Like this strat here for essentially skipping an entire jump with an angled triple at the start from the jump before, which allows you to just absolutely fly through the jump at 1,000,000 miles an hour. The previous no-fail run just does the jump the intended way, which is significantly slower. Bunny also doesn't have to do any strats that save failed attempts at jumps either, like how the previous world record has to do an awkward save at the end of this jump by pogoing on the fence to reach the end without failing. There's none of that in Bunny's run whatsoever. The run has brand new strats to drastically improve on what was already an impressive no-fail run from earlier in the year, which creates a run that would be insanely difficult to beat. Coming in at number 5 is IzzyHop on Jump Saw. Saw is an incredibly popular map that is widely considered to be a classic, and the map is over a decade old by now, so holding the world record on a map like this is considered incredibly prestigious. And in 2023, this map got its first ever sub 4-minute speedrun. And this run is by far the longest standing record on our list, being achieved in January of 2023, and still standing to this day. From a speedrunning perspective, this map has an extra layer of difficulty added on that most more modern maps don't really have, which is limited regen. The map only gives you a limited number of rockets to beat the jumps with, but more importantly from a speedrunning perspective is that the connectors between jumps also have limited regen, meaning your decision to fire a rocket needs to be incredibly calculated and incredibly deliberate. And what to the untrained eye might look like jumping through a vent or climbing an elevator shaft is actually a well-calculated strat to pass through the connector as fast as possible with the limited number of rockets that you're given. And you have to make sure to give yourself enough time to strategically reload before executing whatever connector strat might come next. This run doesn't fail a single jump, and it hits almost every connector strat in the entire run. The only unfortunate mistake is at the very end of the map, where IzzyHop fails some speed speed shots through this particularly long corridor that takes you to the final jump. Beefing this connector strat right at the end loses roughly 4 or 5 seconds, which is incredibly tragic. But that doesn't take away from just how crazy the rest of the run is, beating the previous world record by 24 seconds. A previous world record that stood for 3 years unchallenged. It was a pretty solid run to crack, and IzzyHop's run has already stood for almost a year, so who knows how much longer it will remain the record for. Coming in at number 4, we have Boshy on Jump Christmas. This is yet another incredibly old and prestigious map that's considered a classic, and it's had some fierce competition this year. A player named Riot was running this map for a while, gradually chipping down the world record before he eventually got a run of 3 minutes and 30 seconds in October. But that record would only last for about 3 weeks before Boshy came in and beat the run by just under 4 seconds. Boshy's run immediately starts with a new strat. The run starts with what's called a telehop, where you intentionally get teleported at the start of the jump, then fire a rocket at the exact moment you get teleported to launch you from the start zone into the map run, which already saves a second or so on the previous world record. The run then proceeds to hit every single strat flawlessly, except right here, where it looks like he's about to fail the strat only to hit an edge bug on this platform, and he shoots a rocket while he does so to propel himself to the ramp. Just absolutely disgusting. Let's just see that in slow motion again real quick. There it is, absolutely filthy, completely disgusting. This is a crazy clutch moment that saves the run from failure whilst on world record pace. Truly a work of art. This run is basically flawless. It hits every single strat perfectly. It hits the strats that the previous world record didn't, and it even has a new starting strat to gain time immediately at the start of the run. This run is incredible, and I don't see it being beaten for a very long time. But now we're entering the top 3, and in 3rd place we have Fred on Jump Snowshot. Snowshot isn't the most popular or prestigious map to have a world record on, and it doesn't have the most competition either. But what makes this run so impressive is just how hard this run obliterates the previous world record. The previous world record was a run by a player named Chief, who beat the map in 59 seconds. His run stood for 3 years, and since the map wasn't too popular, nobody really tried to beat it. Until Fred came along. Fred had whittled the run down by a couple of seconds, mostly using the same strats Chief used, and he got a 57-second run. But then, he started using a new strat. A strat that would save a disgusting 12.5 seconds on Chief's previous world record. 12.5 seconds shaved off on a run that is less than a minute long. That's over 20% of the total runtime demolished by this new strat. The strat was relatively simple in concept. Instead of sliding across this curved ramp and aiming for this bottom wooden ramp, he would instead aim straight for the end of the jump and hit this sloped ramp here. This allowed him to carry all of his speed from the previous jump into the next jump. He could then set up the quint sync with his speed from the previous jump without having to waste any time doing the jump the intended way. This might seem super easy and obvious, but this is significantly more precise than it looks, because there's an invisible ceiling here that is super easy to bonk on without reaching the top of the next jump. So the angle you need to hit to go high enough to clear this ledge, but low enough to clear this invisible ceiling, is incredibly precise. It's a super difficult strat, but if done perfectly, it saves 8 seconds on the first split. Then he strafes around this wall, skipping a slow sync section that lets him save a staggering 12 seconds on the previous world record. This might not be the most popular or prestigious map, but it is a breathtaking run nonetheless. And in second place, we have Vice on Jump Beyond. Jump Beyond has had one of the most storied histories of any jump map to date, so it is arguably the most prestigious world record you can possibly hold. Years back, there was a tool-assisted speedrun of Jump Beyond made by a player called Ned that achieved a 39.9 second time. This run was then beaten back in 2020 by a player called Chief with a 39.76. Boshy then got a run in 2021 with a time of 39.5. And Vice's run that he got in 2023 achieves a 39.1. Incredibly close to the elusive 38-second time that has been theorized to be possible for years now. To the untrained eye, this run doesn't look much different from the previous records held on the map, because when you're saving just fractions of a second like this, it's all about subtle optimization. But I think a run like this speaks for itself. But before we get into the #1 best run of the year, I want to briefly talk about some of the honourable mentions. First, we have Fig on Jump Dystopia. This map is super old and not very popular, but Fig's run is definitely worth a mention purely because of this starting strat. Pre-firing one rocket to the start and one at this far wall for a super fast start that's incredibly precise to set up. This is just an incredibly creative strat that I felt like I had to mention somewhere. And our second and final honourable mention goes to Rubidus on Jump Gaylord. Yes, the map's called Jump Gaylord. No, it's not funny. Anyway, Rubidus got a run on this map that is absolutely breathtaking. It's a run that truly has zero flaws in it. First tries every jump, does every jump incredibly quickly, lands this super tricky tick-perfect water tech first try, which, trust me, is way harder than it looks. This run is absolutely unbelievable and should have easily been the first place run in this video. But there's just one problem with that. This run was achieved on January 1st, 2024. Anywhere from 10 hours to just a couple of hours into the new year, depending on your time zone. Maybe it was 2023 somewhere in the world, but it's too close to call. This run might be the best run of the year for the entirety of 2024, and it was achieved within about 8 hours of the new year. But without further ado, the #1 best run of 2023 is Riot on Jump Pandemonium. Riot's run on this map is almost completely flawless. There's only one single mistake on the entire map, and that's this right here. He fails a C-tap and has to start again. That's it. Outside of that, the run is literally completely flawless. And Pandemonium is yet another map known for being incredibly difficult. And Riot's no-fail of the map is the first time the map has ever been beaten without failing a single jump. But he also hits all of the strats too. Every connector executed flawlessly. Even the cheat for Jump 18 nailed first try, where you pre-fire the fence at the side instead of the wall at the end to make the jump faster and more consistent. This run is completely astonishing, and if it weren't for this incredibly minor mistake, it would literally be a perfect run. The run is incredibly clean from beginning to end and would be insanely hard to replicate, which is what allows Riot to beat the previous world record by an enormous 42 seconds. So that was my pick for the top 10 best rocket jump world records of 2023. This list is entirely my own opinion, and to be honest, it was insanely hard to pick this year. Any of these top 5 or 6 runs could have easily been in the first place spot, but this is the list I've decided on, and I'm sure I'll be kicking myself over the order for the rest of time. If you wanted to watch each run in full, then every single run featured is linked in the description down below. And if you wanted to watch the top 10 sticky jump world records of 2023, 2023, then that video will also be linked in the description. And I can't wait to see the crazy records that get set in 2024. Thanks for watching.